Spursy, Kyle and Dan with you on a Wednesday, and the biggest news in Toronto. Well, there's three big news stories. We have Vladdy batting leadoff. We have Brandon Valenzuela, the MVP and now walk-off hero of the Blue Jays, and Mike Babcock. It's the story of the hockey world, so of course it involves Toronto because he used to be here. Maybe becoming coach of the Edmonton Oilers. Let's start with Babcock because Bob Stauffer, a guy who's been ingrained in the hockey world in Edmonton, he said it's not maybe going to happen. It is happening. Mike Babcock to Edmonton, and this is the most shocking news of what has transpired in the NHL in the last 6 months, maybe a year.
I mean, Dan, if you're going to try and tell Connor McDavid, hey, we want to keep you around, we want to make a commitment to you ending your career as a member of the Edmonton Oilers, what better way than bringing in Mike Babcock to try and turn things around for an Oilers team that lacked an identity down the stretch, bowed out unceremoniously to the Anaheim Ducks, and you already have players with comments looking to try and find their way out of town because the last thing they want to do is play for a coach that may or may not want to go through your cell phones, which in this case is probably finding plenty of Zillow listings on Connor McDavid's phone as he explores other destinations where he can hone his craft outside of Alberta once this season comes to an end.
But you have to figure that Connor McDavid would be looking forward to Leon Draisaitl's list of which teammates work the hardest. No?
I mean, this is all so insane. Like, I know hockey culture is different than a lot of other sports, and we get retreads in the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, etc. But are there no fresh names that are qualified to be head coaches in the National Hockey League that we have to bring in Mike Babcock, who never even coached a game when Columbus brought him in, or that suddenly the King's solution behind the bench is Peter Laviolette? Like, what are we doing here as a sport as a whole? I can't quite wrap my head around all of it, but then again, there's a reason I'm sitting here talking to you guys and not trying to build a roster to go out there and compete for a Stanley Cup, I guess.
It's the greatest recycling program in the world. The NHL is running it.
There's a new name for you, Pavelski. He's one of the rumored Leafs coaches. Never coached a game outside of his son's minor hockey team.
Honestly, Kyle, at least we're thinking outside the box and you get a fresh perspective on all of it. I feel like that's a step in the right direction, that if he flames out, you go, you know what? Maybe he wasn't the best answer. Whereas if Mike Babcock and Peter Laviolette don't go out there and produce a damn thing, we're going to go, I'm not sure who saw this coming. And then every hockey fan around North America raises their hand and goes, we've seen this before. We know it didn't end well, and we didn't think that it was going to end any differently in a new destination.
You can't tell me that any decision in the Oilers organization is not run through Connor McDavid, especially this one. So he was consulted 100% because he is already 1 foot out the door with the remaining, 2 years on his contract. This might be his last year in Edmonton. So he was consulted, and if Babcock is hired, he would have said, yes, do it.
But what, I mean, do we know exactly what being consulted means? Is it putting a rubber stamp on it? Is it trying to get Connor, somewhere away from his summer cottage for a quick 3-minute phone call? He's got a bad reception, goes, yep, I thought it was Woodcroft, not Babcock, that you were bringing in a mic here. And we were going to try and revisit that. I honestly wonder what goes on behind closed doors. And when the front office goes to their star players and wants input or something along those lines, what that dialogue looks like. I mean, if a star player goes, absolutely not, I'm going to demand a trade if you bring this guy in, I find it hard to believe that that could actually be a scenario that would play out, especially someone relatively mild-mannered or at least forward-facing in the form of Connor McDavid.
Do you see a theme with Oilers coaches? They're very phallic related. Knobloch, Woodcroft, Tippett, Hitchcock, Babcock.
I got to give top. I think it was the tweet from, I want to say Top Tier Hockey that put that out there. I got to give them a world of credit. There's times where I think of myself as creative. 98% of the time I don't. And that's a tweet that I never could have thought about, crafted, or anything else. But I do begin to wonder what's going on there with Stan Bowman and the GMs that have gone before him in terms of their hiring process. Maybe they run it through AI and that's all they're looking for. Find a coach with a phallic name on his resume, and that's where we're going to start in the process.
It'll be 5 in a row.
Sometimes it's a streak, Toolsy. Sometimes it's a streak.
I like to think that tweet was erected, Todd, not posted. So speaking of coaches in the market, thank you. I'm here all week. Thank you. So speaking of coaches in the NHL, Laviolette's going to the Kings. Out to Los Angeles. What's left for these Toronto Maple Leafs? Is Patrick Waugh going to be the coach of this team?
I mean, they keep saying Jay Woodcroft is a name that they're seriously considering. I mean, that, whether people would love it or not, makes a world of sense given how he's kind of resurrected his reputation as an assistant coach in Anaheim. I think that makes more sense than some of the other names that are out there. I don't think Patrick Waugh is the perfect fit to try and get the Leafs where they want to go. The Joe Pavelski stuff, when I started to read those rumors, kind of came out of left field. And I honestly thought it was coming from the Onion. I didn't know that was a real report. But at the same time, we know that this new look, Leafs front office wants to do things a little bit differently. The better question that I have, Kyle, is what are we looking at for a realistic timeline? I mean, are the Leafs going to wait till after the draft to name a head coach? I mean, are we going to try and figure out if they can bask in the glory of a potential, Canada win in the World Cup group stage, that the Leafs are going to try and provide a Friday afternoon news drop after Canada knocks off Bosnia? Or what's a realistic timeline for MLSE to try and get this thing done rather than being mired in mediocrity and all the speculation that continues to swirl?
Well, I have a quote for you about that exact thing. Chayka himself said, "It's been a long time since there's been some kind of full search for this organization. It's important for us to take our time and get it right."
Ooh, throwing shade.
All right. I mean, sometimes you have to make sure that you're meticulous. You leave no stone unturned when you're trying to find out who your next bench boss is going to be to drive the Leafs to missing the postseason by at least 6 to 8 points.
What are the odds right now of Vladdy ever batting the leadoff for the Toronto Blue Jays again?
I mean, you have to try and spark the team. And right now, don't look now, but 3 out of 4 victories for this team. I mean, Vladdy didn't exactly provide power from the leadoff spot, but you want to get your best players up there and maximize their at-bats. So there's a lot of thought behind some of this, whether it was Mike Trout when he started second and it really took people by surprise for the Angels years ago, why Shohei hit so high in the lineup. I don't hate it. It's not like the Jays are going to go out there and try and play station-to-station baseball all the time. So if it gets Vladdy an extra at-bat every 3 to 4 games, keep him in the leadoff spot, maybe move him to number 2, but try and give him the opportunity to get up there and get proper licks in to get this offense going.
Were you like me in laddering Dylan Cease's strikeouts last night on his big return to the lineup? Because as far as returns go, from a betting point of view, you couldn't have done much better than 11 Ks and 29 swings and misses.
No, and you see Dylan Cease's odds to win the American League Cy Young come down as a result of that. And I know it's a race that's relatively wide open. It's not exactly as deep with pitching talents as what we're seeing in the National League right now, but that had to be a breath of fresh air for the Jays that so desperately need to try and figure out what this rotation will look like as we get deeper into summer. Dylan Cease has at least looked the part when healthy of a true ace. And I think that's got to have the Jays front office, that Jays locker room, and Jays fans brimming with a bit of confidence if they can get some of these other arms healthy behind him.
Okay, so a potential Jays Cy Young winner. What about a potential Jays MVP and Brandon Valenzuela? Come on now.
I'm not sure I'm going to quite go that far, but you do have to applaud the little walk-off mojo there. Everybody needs a spark. And apparently what they say is Jays baseball is just a little bit better with Valenzuela in the mix, which is different than what they say here stateside, where everybody needs a little bit more Venezuela in their life. So,
and it was pointed out by Keegan this morning when I talked to him. He said if Alejandro Kirk doesn't go down to injury, we don't see Valenzuela all year. So some things happen for a reason.
So what do you think the lineup looks like when Kirk can return to action?
We had this discussion last night.
Yeah, I mean, how do you make, can you take his bat out of the lineup while he's, absolutely white hot? Keegs, I'm sure, had to have some thoughts on that, Toolsy.
Well, he said Valenzuela's played some first base, but the spotlight is on George Springer. You can't take Valenzuela out of the lineup and keep Springer in it.
I mean, Springer hasn't exactly gone out there and produced at a high clip. So it'll be interesting to see if they opt for a little platoon setup or how they try and make sure they can keep their best bats while they're producing in the mix on a game in, game out basis.
I say we just have him pitch and be done with it, because at this point, why not, right? Switching to the Stanley Cup really quick. Todd, it's a shame there's probably not many people watching this series because it has been fantastic. You and I were texting about it as the epic comeback was en route on Saturday night, and Game 4 did not disappoint either.
There have been some big numbers stateside here for what we're seeing from the Canes and Knights. I can't speak to what the Canadian media is reporting, but this series has not lacked for entertainment value, to your point, Kyle. Now, I'll be the naysayer. I'll be the wet blanket, insert whatever cliche you want. I'm not sure this has been the most well-played Stanley Cup final that I've ever seen. I mean, the turnovers, the blown leads, the blown assignments all over the ice. But from an entertainment value standpoint, it's adopting the old CFL catchphrase, no lead is safe. And that's truly been the case. I mean, you blink, 2-goal leads are gone. The Golden Knights, when you think blowing a 2-goal lead on the road in Raleigh in game 2 is enough, they go, hold my beer. We're going to blow a 4-goal lead at home, including 3 goals in 39 seconds. And suddenly the unstoppable Jordan Staal is channeling his inner Connor McDavid. He's a guy that just can't be moved from the paint in front. I mean, he's getting highlight reel goals. It's basically like he's down on the ice with his Bobby Orr recreation for the game-winning goal in game 4. And here we are, what every hockey fan I'm sure wants to see, a de facto best of 3 when the series shifts to Raleigh. I personally am hoping that we get some goaltending at some point in this series. I mean, credit to Carter Hart, I guess, for becoming the first goalie in Stanley Cup history to give up 4 goals or more in 4 straight games. And yet John Tortorella, when asked about potentially making a change, I think Tortorella would rather resign his interim tag as bench boss of the Vegas Golden Knights than remove Carter Hart from the crease.
I was in the land of the Stalls earlier this week in Thunder Bay, and I was chatting with Stahl's uncle who was headed to Vegas. He's like, I hope I see hockey. He says, and then we talked about the goaltending situation, and here Brindamore makes me look like a jackass. I said, no, it's Freddie's net. You will see him back there for game 4. And who starts? Undrafted Brandon Bussey.
Hey, before I unpack that, can we go back to Stahl's uncle's comment about a hopes he sees hockey? Did he get here when there was an off day or not a game scheduled? Did he think he wasn't going to be able to get out of the casino? Can you provide a little bit more context?
He's running a big conglomerate of a construction company. He can't just go willy-nilly. He's got to, okay, when I can go, I'll go.
I feel like WestJet and Air Canada have a lot of daily direct flights from Thunder Bay right to Las Vegas. You can fly first class and really reap the benefits of a true luxury experience in the sky. But going back to your comments about the goaltending situation, Freddie Anderson took a knock to the dome in game 3. He finished that second period. But I wonder if that was where he injured something or if there was concussion protocol that the Canes are sweeping under the rug. I know the league never wants to try and admit there was wrongdoing or anything along those lines. And then suddenly, Carolina comes out and says they just needed Freddie Anderson to have a mental reset day. So not only does Freddie not start, that's a job reserved for Brandon Bussey in game 4, Freddie's not even on the bench. I don't know what happens in game 5 going forward in terms of what that looks like. But again, this is the National Hockey League, and upper body injury could mean your head has been decapitated. You could be in the concussion protocol. You could need major reconstructive surgery for your shoulder, or maybe you just need an hour session on the sports psychologist's couch.
Todd, the over-under line's finally moved to 6.5. That means the next game is going under with certainty, correct?
Dead shot under. We're finally going to get a defensive slugfest. We're going to get a 2-1 game. And I do think, Kyle, what's interesting about it, when you go back to the first period of game 3, it was a little bit slower and more sluggish. I have to imagine that the quick turnaround and the cross-country travel could create some heavier legs for both these teams early on in game 1. And John Tortorella, in his post-game press conference availability, when he did actually answer one of the 10 to 12 questions he was asked, more or less said they have to do something to take care of the house in front. They have to move Stahl, and they have to be a little bit cleaner. I mean, we've seen at least one bad goal as a direct result of a Vegas defender's giveaway and or turnover under the goal line extended in each of the few games. Knowing what's at stake here, I think this is going to finally take on a little bit more of a cagier feel. And to your point, it wouldn't shock me at all as the market finally adjusts that we get a tight checking, slightly lower scoring game as both these teams do everything they can to insulate their respective netminders. So a strong lean for me under the total. And I actually like the first period under 1.5 at plus money as well.
Who's the odds-on favorite to win the Conn Smythe as it stands right now?
Mitchell Marner, and that, Dan, leaves us to a very interesting discussion. Has Mitchell Marner done enough? If this series were to go 7 games, the Vegas Golden Knights lose in heartbreaking fashion, to be a Conn Smythe winner on a losing team, which would be the most leafy thing ever in the history of mankind, that Mitchell Marner receives individual accolades, still can't get his name on the cup. But I do think Jordan Staal has really closed that gap with his offensive outburst so far this series. Because we were having this discussion before game 4. I just said there's no Carolina Hurricane that really had a standout performance. Maybe it was Logan Stankoven, maybe it was Taylor Hall. But I do think the discussion, if Marner goes out there and puts up some crooked numbers in either game 5 or game 6, and we have a 7-game series where Vegas comes up short, has he done enough to get the individual accolades?
The fix would definitely be in if that happened.
It would be something. Thank God for Jordan Stahl to at least throw a wrench into the debate to some degree, because he's been the only truly outstanding player. Todd, I was in New York City on Monday and Tuesday. The Knicks buzz was palpable. It was taking over the entire city. It was actually quite nice to see it, a city that could probably use a championship because they are so, in fact, hard done by. Everyone in the city was planning the parade. They were swearing this would be done in 4. And I'm like, you're not beating the San Antonio Spurs in 4 games. And now the Spurs have come back and won one on the road. Is there any reason to think that the Knicks are still in control of this series?
I think the Knicks are very much still in control. They did look a little bit tight for game 3, and it showed up down the stretch. We can say what we want about NBA officials and the impact they can have on games. You look at the free throw disparity that head coach Mike Woodson called out after the game. You have to imagine you're going to get a much fairer and more equitable whistle. In game 4, the Knicks, opened as a 1.5-point favorite, now out to 2. But it's interesting. I'll give Mitch Johnson and the Spurs a ton of credit because they've made some adjustments. They're trying to turn Jalen Brunson into a little bit more of a facilitator than a scorer. I mean, the shot volume has been there, but it's not exactly a model of efficiency and not exactly coincidence. The Knicks played so well in games 1 and game 2, albeit coin flip scenarios in the waning moments of each of those contests. But Karl Anthony Towns was the most visible and most dominant force that they had on the offensive and defensive end. For the Knicks to be successful, I think Cat has to get back to his game. They have to try and do what they can to slow down Wemby a little bit. And I can't imagine we're going to get the same kind of offensive outburst from Steven Castle that we saw in game 3. So I know the Knicks are ready to hit the panic button. They've been here before, but I do think they find a way to win a pivotal game 4 at MSG and take advantage. Kyle, I'm just glad that you weren't captured in any of those brutal videos that we saw circulating around the city of Knicks fans deciding to take out some of their frustrations on Spurs fans. So I'm glad you were able to return to your home in Canada and you were not detained for disorderly conduct while you were in Manhattan.
Not for that.
Thanks, Furzy.
Always a pleasure, boys.